Hey guys, I'm pretty excited to share this video with you. I want to give a quick thank you and shout out to Joseph Dean, one of my subscribers, for being kind enough to send me his Headrush Prime so that I can do a review of it and do some other videos, shooting it out with other products, do some dial-in videos, you know, stuff like that. So we're going to start this video off with an unboxing and give you my first impressions, and I'm going to dial in a preset and tell you what I think about it and do a profile with it and see how that works. And in future videos I'll be comparing the Headrush Prime against both the Quad CORTEX and the KEMPER regarding how well it profiles in comparison to both of those units. So let's get started with the unboxing and first impressions now. I already cut the tape, so I kind of got excited and forgot to save that for the camera, but you know, who cares? Who wants to watch somebody cut tape, right? So got some cables, and let's go ahead and get this thing out of here. Definitely kind of big, kind of heavy too. If you have little girly arms, it's heavy, but it's not heavy for me because I don't have little girly arms. All right, I'm going to be real careful how I unwrap this because I got to send it back to Joseph when I'm done. Well, there she is. You guys have already seen unboxing videos with this product, so I'm not going to go too crazy with it. But yeah, it's a pretty impressive looking unit, you know. But it got a pretty good size screen on it. Probably great for editing and stuff like that. You have MIDI, which is great, so you can use it as a 4-cable method with your amplifiers. Lots of ins and outs. Yeah, pretty freaking cool. You got a mic input for vocals, or I'm thinking for profiling as well. So, let's see here. Yeah, this thing is definitely pretty hefty. All right. Yeah, it is a nice looking unit. I love the fact that the layout and everything is real simple, you know, and you got the expression pedal. Let's fire this thing up and dial in my first preset, and be patient with me because this is literally like my first time dialing this in, so I want to share the experience with you. I'll try to cut out a lot of the fat, you know, anything that's boring, I'll try to cut it out, but I just want to show you like a realistic view of what it's like to turn this on for the first time and come up with some great guitar tones. And then after this, I will do my first profile with it and see how that turns out. All right, guys, so I just fired up the unit, and this is the first preset that I see as soon as it turns on. So let's check it out and just see what it sounds like. All right, first impression, not very good. There's some reverb on there. Let's turn that off. And this is the crunch rhythm, I guess, according to what I'm seeing here. And looks like this is an overdrive. So let's see what it sounds like as soon as I turn on the overdrive. All right, not really impressed with how this sounds. It just sounds really crumbly and mushy, and it literally sounds like an older model, like if you were to, you know, make a model like 10 years ago. It almost seems like they ported in their old models on this unit, which if that's the case, that's kind of disappointing. You'd think with a new unit they would put new versions of their models in there, but this just has the characteristics of an old model. I'm familiar with this because like on the Line 6 and other units, that's what I'm used to as well with their older models. With their newer models, they sound much better, and this really does seem like an old model. But let's mess around with it and see if I can improve it. All right, so turning the gain down definitely helped it out. So far, this is really intuitive, though. Very easy to use. So, yeah, not bad. Not bad as far as the interface goes. Let's see all the effects that they got in here. Let's just see how they dialed them in. All right, the reverb's not bad. I'll go through the rest now. All right, so yeah, not really impressed. Not all that great. I don't like how they dialed in, like the tape echo sounds really, it's just too loud. And the chorus is, it almost sounds like a flanger, not a chorus pedal. Yeah, the tape echo is like, it's obnoxious sounding. Let's switch to the lead patch and see what we have there. Well, the tape echo or whatever delay they have on this setting is much better. So, yeah, I mean, it's okay. And look, I get it. Like, not everybody likes the factory presets, you know, but I just wanted to see what my first impressions were here. And, you know, first impressions matter. And I really think companies need to do a better job when it comes to the presets that they have in here, because at first this sounded really bad, and I improved it by turning the gain down a little bit, cleaned it up, and it wasn't so crumbly, but it still sounds like a model. You know, it's got that thin kind of, you know, digital model sound and feel to it. So far, not impressed with the unit, not impressed with what I'm experiencing here, but let's go ahead and dial in a preset. Now this preset I'm going to dial in is just going to be simple. I'm just going to use you know, one of their amp models, a cab, maybe an IR. I think this thing has IRs in it, and I'll just use an overdrive pedal and maybe a noise gate or something like that, just to see if I can get a good tone out of it without dealing with the factory stuff. All right, so I have a clean palette here. Let's go ahead and start with an amp. Go with the Headrush stuff. They don't really have a huge selection of amps here yet, amp models that is. Maybe they're relying on people to do the cloning for them so they can get those. I'm sure clones will sound much better than the amp models. So let's see, well, they got a SL100 crunch drive. Let's try the SL100. It's probably a Soldano. And then after that, we're going to go with a cab IR. Let's go with the IRs. What do we have here? There it is. Boogie V30 412. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, kind of dull. Let's put an overdrive in front of it. Let's just go with the greener, which is probably a green scream, a tube screamer that is. Let's see what it sounds like. Let me dial it in. All right, feels better. It's more responsive. I like the graphics. The graphics are really cool. I have to give them that. So let's go to, where's their freaking, probably utility for a noise gate. Yep. All right, noise gate works. Let's dial this in further. All right, that was easy. Noise gate is pretty much set. I'm just not impressed with the models. You know, the models just, there's just not a good sound there. It just sounds kind of boxy and fake. It just, yeah, it does. These models, I'd almost put money on it. These are old models that they just ported in from the other unit. And there's nothing new about them. You guys know, like, whenever Line 6 does an update, the models are better. Like, the new amps that they're modeling are just better. You know, there's just something better about them. And I'm not trying to sound like a Line 6 fanboy here. I don't care about what the brand is. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. And it just seems like these guys just ported in the old models. That they had that old model sound and feel to them. And if you guys are familiar with the old models and some of these digital platforms versus the new ones, you know what I'm talking about. There's that weird, thin kind of digital thing going on. And I'm just not impressed. Let me just try one more thing. Let me switch to a different model. Maybe it's the model I don't like. So let me just give it every chance that I can here. All right, so probably double tap on that. Let's go to amp. Headrush. Let's go to something, maybe they got something better in here. Tread plate modern. Mesa. Well, let's give that a try. Yeah, I'm still not digging that at all. All right, one more. Let's see if they have something in here that I'll like here. Let's go to, I thought they had a 6505. That's what was in that first patch. Let's see if I can find one in here. There we go. Or 5150, whatever. Here we go. Okay, that's about as much time as I'm going to spend on the amp models. Not impressed at all. I mean, if right now, if I was making a decision on whether or not I was going to buy this unit based on the amp models, I would definitely be boxing it up and sending it back. Not impressed with the amp models at all. So the next segment, what I'm going to do is let's try the cloning feature. Let's try cloning one of my amplifiers. And maybe I'll clone one of my overdrive pedals as well. And let's see if that feature will impress me enough to give it high marks and recommend it. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys with what I'm experiencing here. So far, amp models are not good. They're old. They're antiquated sounding and feeling. And the effects are decent. I wouldn't say they're blowing my mind or anything, but they're decent. They're passable. But I'll get into more of that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'll profile my Splawn Nitro, why not? And I'll set up a whole preset with effects and stuff like that, and then we'll see what happens. All right, so I have everything all set up to do a clone of my Splawn Nitro, and let me show you what I have going on here. So basically, you just pull up the screen here, go to amp cloner, proceed. We're going to do an amp and cab. I have my Mesa 212 mic'd up with a Royer 121 combined with a SM57, and so we'll profile it with that. And then you also get a connection diagram here, which is really handy. I do like that. Very nice graphics, very easy to understand. So if you can't hook everything up properly after reading this, then I don't know, maybe you should reconsider some of your choices in life. This is really simple. And you also have a list here as well, if you'd prefer that. So that's really nice. So I'm just going to go through the process with you guys real quick. So basically, you want to make sure that you have the amp that you're cloning. It can't be above -6 dB. So we're going to go ahead and give that a try right now. You're seeing my voice on it right now because I have the board hooked up to the input of the of the Headrush. But let's go ahead and play the amp right now. I'll mute my mic and show you what my levels are, and then we'll proceed. I'll show you every step so no one questions how I did this. All right, so it's a little bit low, so let me make some adjustments here, and then we'll start with the process. All right, so I got the level I needed, so let's go to the next step. So basically, you want to adjust these levels here and basically make them as the same adjustments that they are on the amplifier. So I have the presence pretty high on the amp because this is one of those amps, so about right there. I lowered the bass down just a hair, so let's take that down. And I got the mids up a little bit and the treble up a little bit. All right, here we go. Let's start the cloning process now. I just finished the cloning process, so now let's compare the real amp against the clone and then make any adjustments if necessary. Switch to the screen for you. So the target amp is actually the Nitro, and the amp clone obviously is the clone of it that's inside the Headrush. So I'm going to switch back and forth between them now and then make any adjustments if necessary. Well, they're pretty close. I mean, there's some adjustments that you can make. I'll show you. So you can make these adjustments if you want to here, and make it closer to the real amp. But I think it's pretty close. Let me go back and forth a couple more times and just make sure. Okay, so I think it's pretty close. You know, I mean, I think it's good enough for the video anyways. I mean, like I said, you can do the necessary adjustments if needed right here. The thing I don't like about this, though, is the fact that you got to do these adjustments. So, like, how do you know it needs, you know, maybe more mids or you know, more presence or more treble or bass or whatever? And I know some of you guys are like, duh, if it needs more bass, you should know that. Well, yeah, but how do you know that this unit, you know, the Headrush, is actually putting in the real frequencies to match what the amp would do if you were to turn up the bass knob on the amp, or the presence knob, or the treble, or the mids? You see what I'm saying here? So you're kind of guessing and trying to dial it in to see if you could get it close to the amplifier with tone controls that aren't the same as the tone stack that's on the amplifier itself, if that makes sense. So like with the quad Cortex, I don't have to do that. You know, I mean, all I have to do is just hit capture and it does it, and I don't have to do anything, and the algorithm takes care of everything for me, and it's done. With this unit, you have to do extra stuff, and again, you're guessing with everything that you're doing. I know with the KEMPER, you do the refining. You play some guitar riffs and it refines it, and that works really well as well. So I'd rather refine it with some guitar riffs than do the guessing game with all of these features here on the Headrush. You know, yeah, it's cool that you can do that, but you shouldn't have to. I mean, in this day and age with technology the way it is, if you're coming out with a unit that's going to do amp captures, then it should just do them. You shouldn't have to do anything else. I mean, if Quad Cortex is doing it and ToneX is doing it, then why can't Headrush come up with it? And you know the next KEMPER that comes out probably won't require refining. They might give you the option to do it or not, but I mean, it probably won't have to be done. So again, if you're coming out with a new unit that's going to compete with all of the other amp profilers out there, you should probably come up with something that you don't have to do any extra work with to make it sound like the amplifier. The algorithm should take care of it. I don't know, I think it's cool that you have the option, but again, you shouldn't have to. Why leave the rest of it up to us to sit here and try to, you know, monkey around with that? So in this next segment, we're going to take a look at what a preset sounds like with the clone of the Splawn Nitro in it and with some carefully dialed in effects. Okay, so I have my preset all set up with the clone of the Splawn Nitro, and I actually did a clone of the Mud Killer as well. I just spared you the whole process with that. It's the same process, you just do it with a pedal instead of an amplifier. And let's just see how everything sounds, and I'll show you all the effects that I dialed in as well. All right, so basically I have the phase 90. I guess it's a phase 90. I don't know. It's called something different in here, but I also have a chorus, the dynamic delay, which I'm starting to like now that I've spent more time with it. It actually sounds much better. I have a noise gate, and I guess that's pretty much it for now. So let's go ahead and hear what the preset sounds like. Yeah, not bad. So let's check out the clone of the Mud Killer here. I'll turn it off and turn it on for you. Sounds great. It doesn't change the tone of the amplifier very much. It just makes it a little more responsive and gives it a little more sustain for me. So I do like that. So I'm just going to run through the effects right now and just show you everything. So let's start with the delay. Yeah, pretty cool. So let's check out the phaser. Okay, so not bad. And let's check out the chorus. I'm impressed so far with this preset. It's actually turning out pretty good. And of course the noise gate, you know, there's off, there's on. So the noise gate works really well. Now that I've had more time to spend on the effects and I had some more time to dial them in, I do like the delay quite a bit. It's the stereo dynamic delay. And it's a little tricky to dial in at first because there's a lot of controls with it. But once you get the hang of it, it's not bad. Same thing with the multi-chorus. That actually took a little bit of time as well, but I think it's a multi-voice chorus or whatever, 4 voices in it, and I just found some settings that worked really well for me, and I do like the phaser. So the effects are growing on me a little bit. I think the effects are better than I initially thought. There's not a ton of effects in here. There's not a ton of variety, but I could actually use the effects if I went on stage with this right now. Would I want more eventually? Yeah, and that's the thing I'm kind of disappointed with, because again, if you're releasing a digital platform today that is pretty far behind other units that are already out there regarding effects, I just think that's a bad idea. You need to come out swinging, you know, I mean, you really do. And I understand maybe, you know, sell them, and while you're selling units, you just do the updates and stuff like that. But that seems to be a habit that a lot of companies have nowadays. Like, well, let's just release this half-baked item and we'll just keep updating it as we go. But you can't get away with that with an amp. I mean, the Ingalls Savage has 4 channels. I wouldn't buy it with 2 and go, well, I'll just wait for them to send me the other 2. You know, it just doesn't work that way. So I'm kind of hoping that this trend of releasing half-baked products kind of ends. We need to get away from that and release stuff that is a little further down the line. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, it should be completely done before you release it. I'm not saying that. But when you compare what's out there right now to what you're releasing and you're way behind it, maybe you should update it a little bit more before you release it. Just my 2 cents for what it's worth. All right, so here's my final thoughts regarding this unit, and I'm going to break it down in a couple of different categories. I think the price point is actually pretty good, and it's pretty affordable, especially when you compare it to other units out there that are in the same category. I like the fact that it does have a expression pedal on it. Everybody's different. I could take it or leave it. I could go either way, but I love having my own expression pedals because I like the spring load stuff, especially for wahs and stuff like that. It's just easier for me to use, and I just enjoy those more, but it's pretty cool that it has that. It seems to be well built, and I do like the screen and the graphics. They're very good. I mean, it was very easy to use. The navigation, the whole user interface in this is very intuitive and very easy to use. It's actually kind of fun to use. I had to get used to it because I'm used to other units, but I mean, it wasn't hard to do. So I would give them high marks regarding that. It looks like it's built well. I do like the fact that, let me go back to here. I do like the fact that you do get the scribble strips and the lights, and you can change the colors and all that stuff. That's very cool. And there's many ways to dial things in. So you can dial it in with the knobs, or you can use the screen. I mean, it's very, very easy. And I like the fact that you have several different ways. So you can pick the best way to dial things in that works for you. Now, regarding the amp models, I think they're freaking crap. I really do. I think they're putrid garbage. I would never play through any of them. They're awful. Sorry, not sorry. In fact, I'm not sorry at all. They're freaking disgustingly awful. I think that they were a huge swing and a miss, and I think it was very lazy of them to put such crappy amp models in this unit. I feel like they're just retreaded models from their older units, and they should have updated those and created new models for the new platform. Maybe they did, I don't know, but if they did a shitty job on the new models. They all sound like pure ass, and I wouldn't use them. I just wouldn't. Now, regarding the effects, I think the effects are decent. They're not super awesome, and there's not a huge variety of them, but there's enough in there to get me by for now. If I had to do a gig tomorrow with it, I could easily do that, but there's a lot of more you know, elaborate effects and more creative effects out there that I'm used to using, especially with the KEMPER. And this is very much behind the KEMPER when it comes to effects. I can tell you that right now. But they are good enough to get me by for now. So hopefully in the future they will be doing some updates with those. Now regarding the cloning process, this was pretty unique. It's a little different, and I have to you know, take into consideration that I'm used to working with the quad CORTEX and with the KEMPER. So there's a bit of a learning curve when it comes to what you're used to on those units compared to what you're going to have to deal with here. So I'm trying to be fair and take all that stuff into consideration. That being said, the cloning process was actually decent. You know, it wasn't too bad. I mean, you do have this really nice graphic on the screen to show you how to hook everything up. And if that doesn't work for you, then you can use the list that it gives you. So, I mean, it's really nice that they give you those options. So it was easy to hook everything up. I don't like the fact that I have to do, you know, further tweaking on the clones. Like if it comes out and it doesn't sound exactly the same, I got to do all this further tweaking and take a guess with the EQ and stuff like that. And I already explained that earlier in the video. I just, again, think that in this day and age, if you're coming out with something that's going to do amp profiling, you know what's out there and you know what you have to compare yourself to. So maybe you should come up with an algorithm that at least is as good as something like the quad CORTEX or the KEMPER, or maybe even surpasses that and just does everything for you. Because as soon as you start having to guess on, well, I don't know, is it more mids that the amp needs, you know, the clone needs, or is it more highs, is it more treble or more presence? I don't know, and you start taking guesses and then you get further and further away from what's real, and it could get frustrating. It really can. You know, and I also found the cloning process to be a little bit inconsistent. I cloned the Splawn Nitro several times, and they all came out quite a bit different from each other. And I got lucky on the one that I actually filmed, and it actually sounded really good. So I was like, well, thank God I filmed this one, because it actually turned out really good. So some of the clones that I did earlier that I did off camera just did not turn out good at all. So that was really odd, but at least I got some good ones out of it. So I think the cloning process is good. It could use some work though. And like I said earlier, an updated version of the algorithm for cloning would really come in handy here. And it's just a software update. So hopefully they'll do that so that you don't have to do any further tweaking on the amp clone when you're done with it. I like the fact that with KEMPER you can do like the refining with a couple guitar riffs. I would prefer that. Like I said earlier in the video, I would prefer that over turning some knobs or wiping my finger across the screen and guessing which, you know, which EQ setting would be best to mimic the amp better. Or just do what the quad CORTEX did and come up with an algorithm that really puts the amplifier through its paces and it's super accurate. I mean, without having to touch anything. That would be cool. And if it takes longer, so what? You know, I don't care. I'll just scroll Facebook for a couple minutes while it's doing it. I don't give a crap, you know. That would come in handy as well. So I hope in future updates maybe they will address that. Now regarding cloning the pedals, I found that to be pretty cool, but again, you have to do the tweaks. And when you're cloning a overdrive pedal and you're trying to make it sound the same as all the, you know, all the noise coming out of that pedal to mimic it, I mean, you're really taking a lot of stabs in the dark there to mimic that perfectly. So I have to say it again, an updated version of that algorithm would really come in handy so you don't have to do any further tweaking on pedals or amplifiers when you clone them. I also like the fact that it has MIDI, so if you want to use this with any other gear or even an amplifier and you want to hook it up for cable method, you can use it with an amplifier and change channels on it and all that. So that's kind of cool as well. And I think price point wise, I think it's priced pretty good when you compare it to other units. Like a quad CORTEX is better, so it should be priced higher. I mean, it's more powerful, it'll do more things, and it's, in my opinion, it profiles amplifiers better than the Headrush does. But I will say this though, I think that the fact that the Headrush does cloning or profiling or whatever the hell you want to call it is a good thing, because to me that's the saving grace. Because if it wasn't for that, I would not even consider owning this at all. I don't own this. Again, this was sent to me by Joe, who is a subscriber, great guy. Thank you again so much, Joe, for doing this for me. But If I was in the market for something like this and all I had was $12.99 to spend and it didn't do the cloning, I would not buy it at all, because like I said, the amp models are freaking hot dog water. They're freaking garbage. The cloning is actually what was the saving grace to me. And I don't care how beautiful the screen is and how many blinky lights it has. I don't care. It's not a toy. It's something I need to play through, and I need it to sound and feel right for me to perform with it. And you know, all the blinky lights and pretty screens in the world ain't going to save it if it doesn't sound good. So thank God it does cloning, because again, if it didn't, I wouldn't even consider giving this a second look at all. So would I recommend this unit? I mean, if you got $12.99 burning a hole in your pocket and you really can't spend a penny more and you want something brand new that does the things that this unit does, I mean, I guess go get it, but I honestly think that you're better off looking for a used quad Cortex or something like that, or KEMPER or something like that on Reverb, and getting that. Because unless you're going to clone your own amplifiers, there's probably not going to be a lot of amp clones available for this unit for a while, and you have to wait for the updates and all that stuff. I mean, I'm probably going to do some amp clones with it, so stay tuned to the channel for that. I will definitely let you guys know. I'm going to mess with it some more and make sure I can get some consistently good clones on it, and then if I do, I'll put them up on the website and let you guys know. I mean, I want to contribute to the community with some good tones for you guys. I mean, I really do. You know, I mean, I'm not just going to sit here and complain about things. I'd rather contribute and help make it better. So, and I know that I have some really good amps here, and if I can make some clones for it and sell them for you guys at a reasonable price, why not? So again, if this thing does what you want it to do for the price, and you don't mind waiting for some updates and stuff like that, then yeah, I guess go get it. But basically, in my opinion, what you're getting with this unit is something that clones pretty good, and it's got some decent effects with it. The amp models are completely unusable. I wouldn't use any of the high gain ones anyways that I played in this. They just sound like crap. So I wouldn't use those. So if you're a high gain guy like me, you're probably going to want to get some good clones for it and enjoy the effects and the different, you know, features that this thing offers regarding scenes and stuff like that. So does it live up to the hype? I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, I saw a lot of channels doing reviews of this with their O faces and, you know, holding it and, ooh, it's amazing, and you know, it has everything, and all these stupid clickbait, you know, things that they put on their screens, and blown away, and oh my God, and all this crap. And I get so freaking sick and tired of seeing that, because you can tell when somebody gets paid to do a review, right? Because they just want to stay relevant and make sure the company, you know, gets their money's worth. So they're going to do all these clickbait titles and make it seem like it's the best thing in the world. And you know, it just drives me nuts. So the problem is they overhype it when they do that, and then when you get it, it doesn't live up to the ridiculously overhyped thumbnails and reviews of the product, you know, and then you're kind of disappointed. So it just sucks when that happens. It really does. I just wish, I don't have a problem with people getting paid to review stuff. I mean, shit, I mean, we spend a lot of time doing these reviews. It's a lot of time. So I don't begrudge anybody getting paid for that. But just because you got paid doesn't mean that you have to overhype something and put a bunch of clickbait garbage in your thumbnails and make it seem better than what it really is. Just be honest about it. You know, I just wish the YouTube community would come back to just being more honest about things and not overhyping things that they like about something and soft pedaling things that might be an issue. Just be honest about it. Otherwise, you lose your credibility, and people might only watch your channel just because, well, it's just a reference now, but I just want to hear what it sounds like, but I'm not going to listen to anything that guy has to say, because he's just one of those guys that's kind of a shill, you know? So anyways, I'm not saying everybody's a shill, but man, I'm telling you, it's getting a little bit QVC around here on YouTube lately. There's a difference between a review and a sales pitch. And I think what we've been seeing a lot with the units lately, especially this one, is a sales pitch and not a review. I feel like I gave you guys a review. I gave you the pluses and minuses, and I didn't soft pedal anything that I didn't like about it, and I certainly didn't overhype the things that I did like about it. And if you like that style of review, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that very much. And to all my subscribers and Patreon supporters, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I either go live or come out with a new episode. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section below and interacting with you there. Tell me what you think of the unit and my review of it. And if you own it, tell me what you like and don't like about it. Well, I got a lot more stuff coming up for you guys. I'll see you on the next one.